So good day everyone. I'm very pleased to join you in this class. This is a very important class in SQL, and we are going to look at the installation or setup of the database management system. So initial class, if you remember the initial class, I talked about different type of SQL management system or software management system. So I listed Oracle database. If you remember, let me see if I can go to my slide there. Okay. Now you can see it here right now. So common relational database management system. So I listed MySQL, PostgreSQL, then Oracle, and so many of them. Microsoft Access, I think I have, yeah, Microsoft Access is there, Informix, CBase, Postgres, and so many other ones. These are relational database management system. So we want to use the first one. We're going to use the first one because it's much popular. It's used on the web and it's very popular. SQL Server is owned by Microsoft, but we're going to use MySQL. It's MySQL as our database management system to execute SQL language. So is that clear? So let us proceed. Now, let me clarify stuff here. So in the installation, there are two things. Possibly, in this video I might divide it to two sections if it's too long. I want to clarify something here. So in the installation or setup of the database management system, which is MySQL, so there are two things I want you to take note of. Number one, there are two software you have to install. Take note of that. Two software that must be installed. Number one, MySQL Workbench. Then number two, MySQL Server. MySQL Workbench. Number two, MySQL Server. So the first one is your front end. I'll explain. So these are the two softwares. I'm going to put the link below the description page so that you can download these two softwares. So let us proceed. So in the installation, I want to talk about these two softwares so that you understand what is happening behind the scene or in the hood. Okay, so the first one is MySQL Workbench. Now, the MySQL Workbench, you need it. It is the front end. When we say front end, let me just give it an analogy or illustration. Like you go to a restaurant, this somebody that is serving you brings the foods to you, but there's somebody cooking, doing all the backend work. Like you don't even see them. You only see somebody that is going to serve you and serve you. So that is the one giving you. That is the one you are seeing. That is the one interacting with you. That is your front end person or personnel. Now the back end personnel is somebody doing all the works. Without the back end, you don't have food. Maybe in restaurants, you don't have food. So that is how it is. So the workbench is the front end that shows you the output or results of your query. When you type SQL command, the environment you type the SQL command is your MySQL Workbench. It's the one you see, you interact with. The user interact with the front end. You are using the software, you are the user. So the MySQL Workbench is what you interact with. That's where you type your code. That is what shows you the output. Like if you input anything, you input any command, the output will be given to you, which is I call it output or the result. So, or the result of your query. So the MySQL Workbench, you type all your SQL command, as I've said. It is user friendly. Like it's GUI based. Like when I say GUI based, I'm talking about graphic user interface. So you can click and drag and do some other stuff. It makes it easy instead of just only commands. So it's very friendly. Although we have other front ends, which I don't want to list here, but if you, in case for your purpose of research, we have PHPMyAdmin. Is under. I used it before. I used it before in stuff like this, but I discovered that MySQL Workbench is more user friendly than that. That's my own opinion. So that is why I migrated it for data analysis or data, anything data related in terms of SQL. I migrated to MySQL Workbench. Okay, so we have seen the first software now. I've explained explicitly the purpose of the first software you have to install. So this is the link to download it. I'll put it on the description box below. Number two, the other software is MySQL Server. So this MySQL Server is the backend database engine that does the execution of SQL statement, like as I've written here now. It does all the execution of your SQL statement. You execute it and throws the results, and the front end is one that will display the results. The front end cannot do anything, So the server, the MySQL Server, for the word server, from the word server, it means we mean an engine or software that serves, that gives services. You understand? That is the meaning of server. So in this case now, it's a database server, which is MySQL Server. So it runs all the executions, and the MySQL Workbench displays the result. So that's why you need to install MySQL Server, and then you have to install MySQL Workbench. So I wrote here, this is the download link. I wrote here, without the backend or without MySQL Server, the frontend cannot work. The frontend cannot work. So let me just show you where you go and download it. So you download it. So if you want to download it, you go to this place. Okay, let me just, so I click, you just click the link for MySQL Workbench. It's on the description box below. Then this is for, so there are two links here now. This is MySQL Workbench. So if you click the first link, you see MySQL Workbench. Click the second link, you see MySQL Server. So you see something like MySQL Community Download, which is MySQL Community Server. So you go down, you scroll down, and just download. If you're using Windows system, you use this installer is MSI, means Microsoft installer. So if you're using Windows, fine, just download it. Otherwise, any other thing, maybe zip, but download the first one, which is MySQL MSI installer. Okay, so the same thing with my Workbench. You scroll down, it's only one version here, or only one type of file. So you download it. So you download it here. Once you download it, you install it. I guess you should know how to install. Just move next. But when you're installing the server, I've already downloaded it, I've already installed it, so I don't want to install it twice. So when you're installing the server, it's going to ask you a password. So please, you input your password that you can easily remember. Because the database, I told you one of the characteristics of database that security must be secure. So you make sure that you put your password, possibly username. Username could be root or anything that's simple for you. So after you put everything next, then just run it. Then you let it as once it shows finish, that means you have finished the installation. Okay, the same thing with the Workbench, very simple to install. So if there's any issues, let me know, put it on the description below so I will know and get back to you on that. Okay, I know the installation is somehow difficult for some people, that's why I'm taking down time to explain why you install the tool and what are their rules. Okay, so before we proceed to the next line of action, you have to, if you want to check if your server, because the server is the backend, you may not know that it's installed. So you just go to services in your system. Yes, services. So if you go to services, you click this place, it's going to show you all the services running your system. There are a lot of services running on your system, a lot of server. And so we have installed one server, which is MySQL. MySQL is already run. Automatically it's going to start running. But if it's not running, right click and restart or start. But if you want to stop it, you can stop it, but naturally it just keep running. So that is that for the installation. So once you finish installing it, you can search for my Workbench. If I search my stats menu here, you're going to see Workbench. Let me scroll down. You see MySQL. Scroll down, fine, you see MySQL here. Inside MySQL, you will see MySQL Workbench. Okay, so you click it. So once I click it right now, you see it's going to come up now. So I've clicked it. I just want to wait a little so that it comes up. So you see this place now. So you see something like this. This Workbench has successfully been installed. I told you that your Workbench is your front end, so it will ask you, it's looking for connection so that it will connect with the back end. But once your server is not running, it cannot connect. It will show that no connection. So you have to click here. You can create connection here too, but just click here. It will connect to the server. Okay. So if I click it right now, it's going to show me. It's going to ask me for that password. Don't forget your password, please. So I will type my password here. Yeah, I'm going to type my password here right now. So I don't usually forget my password. So I click. So it's going to show me continue anyway. Yeah, just click OK or continue anyway. So it shows me the database or data set that came with. There are a lot of data set that came with this. I installed them. So if you say yes, so install Word, System, Sakila, or something like that. So these are database that came. They can use to practice. And they came with it. So that is for the installation. So the next video, I'm going to explain the interface of MySQL Workbench. So let's move to the next video right now. So I will explain the interface and then we'll now start the first SQL statement. So thank you.